Fire Emblem is a series I really enjoy. I wouldn't call it my favorite series in the history of ever, but I've been invested in the franchise ever since I got to try out Awakening on the 3DS. And recently, I just beat Fire Emblem Engage and I had quite a few things to say about it, some negative and some positive. And since I'm not paying for Twitter Blue, my tweets will be thrown into the endless void of complete lifelessness for no one to care about for years on end. Then, in the deepest pits of my despair remembering this, another memory struck that this channel exists for me to exploit, give you all a wonderful video for my lovely, adorable viewers to enjoy. Yeah, that's what I meant. Okay, I'm sure you're all sick of this cutesy intro. Let's get into my review of Fire Emblem Engage. As we did with my Trails review way back when, we're going to start with the pros of this game first, as I much prefer talking about the good parts of something before talking about the bad. First off, the graphics. This is easily one of, if not the single prettiest game in the Switch's entire library I have ever played so far. The genuine amount of love and care put into taking Fire Emblem's art style and taking it to its most logical extreme is something that deserves the highest level of praise here. I'm honestly surprised my Switch never exploded while playing it. Really shows just how far they've come since Three Houses, a game that, while I don't think looks horrible, does have some pretty dated graphics in comparison to Engage. You can see the massive step up. Another massive piece of praise I can give this game is its lightning quick pacing. Now, I'm someone who actually really enjoyed the monastery sections of Three Houses. I always found myself having fun goofing off with the fishing minigame and spending time with the residents. But I'm not blind to the fact it makes multiple replays a giant hassle to get through. Having to sit through at least 10 to 15 hours of the monastery every time can get tedious if I'm putting it lightly, even as someone who loved it. Fire Emblem Engage forgoes that in order to throw you right into the game. It makes the game far more replayable when you aren't confined to teaching students or hanging out with coworkers. And hey, if you miss the 3D movement stuff, you can always goof off in the Samal, I think I'm saying that right, that's probably incredibly wrong, or run around the maps whenever you beat a level. Pick up items, chat with your team, adopt pets, the normal post-wartime stuff. Alright, that's all the side stuff that's been included in the game. Now, let's move on to what I believe the single best part of this game is, and that is its combat. The combat in Engage is, I'm not exaggerating, some of the best Fire Emblem I've ever played. Engage without a doubt has the best gameplay loop of them all, hands down. Now at first it just seems like plain old Fire Emblem gameplay. Weapon wheels, bows for airborne enemies, the usual stuff. But the more you play the game, the more you realize just what's under the hood here, like the utilization of the all-new break system, where using the weapon weaknesses can now not only allow you to do more damage, but completely stop an enemy from counterattacking and can lead to easier kills in battle. However, this is also something that your enemy can utilize, and it adds a whole new layer of strategy to the game. You can no longer just walk over and slap a dude with a sword. You now have to think a few steps ahead. Like, oh no, if I hit this guy with the sword, that guy with the lance can come over and break me and fuck me over. I can't tell you how many map victories or losses ended up hinging on the break system. I can't tell you how hyped I was whenever I pulled off a break at the right moment and then just got to lay ham with a better enemy and kill a boss. Yeah, I like the break system a lot, if you couldn't tell. And of course, we can't talk about the combat without talking about its absolute best part. And I'm of course talking about the emblems. Now when I first ever saw the emblems in the whole advertising for this new game, I had to admit I was a bit worried. They certainly looked cool, don't get me wrong, but I was worried they would be more about style than practicality. Thankfully, these emblems offer far more than just a cool new look. Each time you engage with one, you not only gain a new look, but you also gain a new set of special abilities that are tied to the character. An example is Corrin summoning a dragon-like roar that strikes multiple enemies in a row and changes the entire terrain. My personal favorite, however, is Lynn's Astra Storm ability. where you can shoot multiple arrows from a long range, which can insta-kill enemies in one hit if it's handled right. Hell, I remember the time I actually beat a level and killed a boss by utilizing it. I felt like a fucking genius. Thankfully, these are not simply continuously spammable. You can only use one of them, and a lot of these do end up coming down with some downsides. Like Corrin gains the Dragonbane ability, which creates an aura of smoke around party members surrounding the person with Corrin's emblem, but it gets rid of your attack for the turn as a trade-off. Or Mikalla's Great Sacrifice, which heals every one of your party members on the field in exchange for one of your characters only having 1 HP afterwards. Or Erika's Warp Ragnarok ability, giving you a powerful attack and easy movement to any space you want on the map, but can fuck you over hard if you end up getting swarmed by enemies because you didn't plan ahead. As the old saying goes, with great emblems comes great responsibility. It was honestly really nice to be proven wrong about these emblems. Also, the music kicks ass. Sorry, not the best when talking about game soundtracks, but this one was just pretty much fantastic in every way. I don't really have much to say about it other than it was really good, and I'm not showing music here because I do not need Nintendo to send their ninjas after me for using any of the music from this game. I'll leave some links below in the description in case you want to experience it as well. And yeah, that's pretty much every great thing I have to say about this. So I think it's time we moved on to this game's shortcomings. Buckle up, boys. We about to get whiny. Alrighty, let's dive right into complaints. Rip the band-aid off nice and fast with this one. First and foremost, this game's story is really lame. It's certainly not the worst story I've ever heard in a game. No, not even close. It's just really average and predictable. Like, every twist they try to throw at you throughout the whole thing, you pretty much already see coming like 1 to 2 miles away. Oh wait, this character is evil? Oh my god, who saw that coming? Oh, these two are related? Oh my god, who could have possibly guessed that? Oh no, this character dies and comes back to life? Oh man, oh, what a twist, am I right? It's a simple by-the-numbers bad guy plot, and while that isn't the worst thing in the world, it is pretty disappointing. I had joked about Three Houses' shortcomings on here, but it in every single way surpasses the storytelling of Engage. The story is much more a placeholder for fun gameplay rather than a deep emotional tale that endears you to all of its characters. Speaking of characters, that's also something that Engage kind of misses its mark on. While from a design standpoint, specifically a design standpoint, these characters are great. From a personality standpoint, they kind of falter. Most characters have about 1 or 2 character traits that are either repeated way more times than needed to the point where it becomes annoying looking at you specifically from, or mentioned once and then just never brought up again. Like, does Yunaka ever say Hiya Papaya again after you hear it from her introduction? Like, I'm genuinely curious. I don't ever think I hear her say it again. She says Zappy once or twice, but like never Hiya Papaya, which is weird. Also, I gotta be honest, Alear isn't the most interesting MC. He's better than Byleth, sure, but his personality is pretty one-note as well. Kinda sucks when barely any personality shines through all of your characters. And it also really starts to tank the support conversations, like a lot. These were not fun to listen to, like, at all. There were some decent ones, sure, but Jesus Christ, it feels like half of the ones with Alear are just people gushing about how cool the Divine Dragon is. Divine Dragon looked at me. Oh, I'm so happy. The Divine Dragon praised me. God, I'm so horny because of that. God, my dick is rock hard after chatting with the Divine Dragon. It gets real irritating when so many conversations turn into that. Remember in games like Three Houses or Awakening where conversations with the MC were just normal fun chats among the group? It felt like they were all just bouncing naturally off each other. Not here. I'm really hoping future Fire Emblems start leaving behind things like being a divine ruler, or at the very least, if they do it again, learned to tone down the dick sucking by at least 40%. This was my biggest problem with Fates 2, where everyone was just talking about how cool and great Corrin was half the time. You don't need that. It's much more fun in conversations to not have these characters be dick sucking. If you want to save your sanity, just skip over Alear and pay attention to mostly everyone else's. You will have a far better time than I did, that's very much for sure. Now on to my final few complaints, and they both have to do with combat. Now I will stand by that it has some of the best combat and gameplay out of all of the Fire Emblem titles I played, but it's also got some shortcomings I want to talk about. I do this out of love, Engage, not hate. First is just how BS the hit rate percentages are. In every battle there are percentage numbers that indicate how likely you are to hit your enemies. It's a good mechanic to give you an idea of how likely you are to defeat an enemy. Except there's one tiny problem, and that the numbers in Engage are complete and total bullshit. There will be times where your hit percentage is at least like 3 times your opponent's, and they will land a hit on you while you miss. I could explain further, but how about I just show you a small clip of it in action instead? This kind of thing can happen to you multiple times throughout an entire map playthrough, making it feel like the game is just cheaping you out of a win you obviously earned. Alongside this, the amount of reinforcement some battles call in get incredibly tiring. While this has always been a part of a lot of Fire Emblem games from what I recall, it's here where it goes from a mechanic to put you in a bit of a sweat and make you put on that thinking cap of yours to solve an added problem, and more like they decided to make levels much longer than they needed to for the sake of padding. Both of these don't break my love of the awesome gameplay, but they are definite problems I needed to call out. At the end of it all, I loved Fire Emblem Engage, despite my pretty harsh complaints. It's got so many great things about it, from the graphics to the gameplay, but I can't help but admit it also has some massive flaws in its storytelling and interactions. But I still love it in spite of all of that. My final rating for this game is a very solid 8 out of 10. Go get it if you want to have a good time with a fun and pretty challenging JRPG. And if you still aren't interested in getting it afterwards, that's cool with me. I hope you at least enjoyed the video though, as I do my best to entertain people, whether they agree with my opinions or not. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, do me a favor and like and sub for more. I really did enjoy Fire Emblem Engage, and I may even replay it on Twitch one of these days for fun. I didn't cover the DLC mainly because I heard it was terrible, so sorry if you wanted to see me tear it apart. Maybe one day though. If you have any questions about the video, leave a comment down below and I'll try to answer you as best as I can. That's all, and I hope you all have a pleasant time. I'll see you around for more.